Welcome, everybody, to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Think Tank community, a place for all passionate parents, players, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. We are bringing on the GM of the Calgary North Stars, Tier 1 organization up in Calgary, Alberta, Jesse Hale. Unbelievable hockey guy. He has done some work with Hockey Canada, worked with Hockey Alberta, now heading up a youth organization up there in Calgary, one that we work with the Youth Hockey Blueprint, and they are a gold standard, man. They do such a great job with what they do, and Jesse leading the helm there. And so this was a phenomenal conversation. Before we do get over to Jesse and the talent of the podcast, one Jeffrey J. Hulavecchio, just a couple updates. First of all, happy birthday to Steph Dukeshare. Hey, Vex, it is her birthday today. She is former podcast producer, now full-time stud of a person in the Hockey Think Tank team. Vex, you want to sing happy birthday?
Happy 25, mama. We're so lucky to have you on the podcast. We're so lucky to know you. You give the best advice. Now she's always giving me parenting advice, and it always works. Like stick the baby in the bath. That immediately changed our lives in the beginning when Sophie would cry every night. We love you, Steph. You are the best. You are a role model. You do so much for your family, for the Hockey Think Tank family, for our podcast family here, and just everyone around you. You're a shining light, and we're lucky to know you. Hope this 25th year is your best year yet.
Absolutely. We love you, Steph. Happy birthday. Also gonna say it's been an awesome couple of days here in Chicago. Barry Smith, 7-time Stanley Cup winner, came into town to do some work with us, and we got to do a big coaching collaborative conference with a bunch of different coaches here in the Chicagoland area. We opened it up to everybody, and thank you to Sean Freeman and John Wallen and the guys at Team Illinois for hosting us at their rink. They took over a rink, Vex, that I probably hadn't been to in, 25 years. And what they have done to the place is insane.
Which rink
insane. It's Addison. I don't know if you remember that rink, Addison, but they've really turned that place around and are doing some really great things in the Chicago hockey area here. So thanks to them. And then also got the opportunity to work with the Chicago Jets, Kent Allen, and the Glacier Ice Dogs Hockey Club, which is the club that my dad is with, and got to do some stuff with them too. They work with us at the Hockey Think Tank as well. And so a lot of fun just getting the opportunity to be around Barry and watch him do his thing with youth hockey coaches, and 7-time Stanley Cup winning coach. And what he's doing right now is he's traveling around the world and giving back and doing a bunch of different coaching seminars and speeches and working with youth organizations all the way up through to the pros. And just we've developed a relationship, and I consider him a mentor. It's been awesome to see that. And maybe we'll get him on the podcast. So everybody can hear his knowledge. And so it's been a fun couple days with that, but already brought you on here, buddy. My talent, the one, the only Jeffrey J. Hulavecchio. How you doing today, brother? How's the new gym? How's the baby? How's life? How you doing, my man?
Baby's awesome. She's wearing shorts now. So she wore like her second dress yesterday. I'm such a freaking girl dad. I'm like, wait a minute, is that her first dress? And Kylie, my wife, is like, it's her second dress. And I just melt every single day, every single time I freaking look at her, because it's getting warm here. So where she's in dresses and shorts, you see a little baby chubby legs, I just love it. She's got little bucket hats on so the sun doesn't burn her little bald head. It's being a dad is the best. You were right all those years, man. So got that going on. Gym just pumping away every single day up there, trying to get the new location ready, the headquarters ready, and it's a big space, so it's a lot of work, but should be done in like a month and a half. So we're cooking, we're buzzing. I have to go up there after this, do more stuff. Also wanted to talk about got to meet a new team that I'm going to work with online here, Niagara women's team, ACHA D1 women's team. Just had a meeting with them. They're going to work with me this off season for online training in the summer. If your team or organization is looking for quality workouts, and if you're super young, I can send your team or organization at home workouts. So parents with players who can't drive themselves to the gym. So many different options, but really excited to be working with Niagara University here this off season.
Speaking of ACHA D1, got to shout out my boys at UNLV, the UNLV Hockey Rebels, who I've worked with the last couple of years. We had Nick Raboni on, one of their coaches, associate coach, on the podcast. Was that probably a couple months ago now, Vex? He's a part of the Hockey Think Tank community too. Dude, they just won the national championship yesterday. Won it in your home rink there in Centene in St. Louis. And I'm so pumped for those guys, man. I'm so pumped for those guys. They do such a good job. I'm so proud of them. That whole group of players, like, again, I got the chance to go in there a couple different times to work with them, and just good people, man. You win with good people at the end of the day. You win with good people who care about each other. And that's who they are to a T, and what they've been able to do with that program. I'm hoping they're going to be a Division I program at some point soon. Obviously, there's a lot that needs to happen for any program to go from ACHA to actual Division I, but they beat the University of Denver, defending national champions this year in an exhibition game. Obviously, winning the national championship at their level is a big deal. So congrats to Anthony, congrats to Nick and their staff and their players. I'm just so pumped for them, man. It's awesome. So cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. I saw that. They pretty sure they beat Maryville men's team on the way there, and it's a little bittersweet because I knew that we had them on the pod, so I was happy they won. But tough for my guys at Maryville, who I work with a decent amount the last couple of years, throughout the season, in season, whenever they can work with me, and just a great program. This is the furthest they've ever made it in the tournament, which is really exciting. Every year that program gets better and better and better and more dialed. And it's a big compliment to Coach Hogan over there, who I'm really close with. He's done great things, taking that brand new program to pretty far heights in only a few years. So congrats to Maryville too. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, also want to congratulate Deerfield. It's a prep school out east that we were fortunate enough to work with this year as well. And their girls won the championship, and their boys came in number 1 seed into the tournament, and unfortunately lost in the semifinals. But Tim McVaugh, Brooke Fernandez, 2 awesome coaches, and did amazing things out in Deerfield this year. So congrats to them as well. And man, dude, like, it's just fun being a part of organizations and groups and teams that just do it the right way and care. And it's so cool because, they bring us in to share our experiences and knowledge and stuff. But so many times when we work with youth organizations, whether it's, at the youth level, whether it's the college level, whether it's the prep high school type level, we learn just as much going in there and working with them, and it reinvigorates our soul about the game. And it just there are so many great people in hockey, and just the fact that we get to work with so many of them. And I know we kind of did last week. We talked about, the 10 things that I've learned in youth hockey, and talked a lot about some of the different partnerships and work that we do with youth organizations around North America, man. And it's just, man, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And again, like I said, learning a lot. And so just a grateful dude over here, man. Just a grateful dude.
Love it.
Just a grateful dude. But again, another awesome guy, man. Jesse Hale, just a wealth of knowledge, just unbelievable perspective about the game. So he runs the Calgary North Stars, a group up in Calgary there, and just gold standard, the way that they do things, the way that they operate, the player development, mentorship, like just the way youth hockey organizations should be ran, they do it. And so I wanted to get Jesse on here because he is such a wealth of knowledge, has been doing it for a long time, as passionate as they come, as smart as they come. And this is going to be a really impactful episode, I think. A really, really impactful episode. You know, we talk about a lot about USA Hockey, obviously being from the States and getting to work with USA Hockey in different capacities. But he gives us a great take on Hockey Alberta and Hockey Canada and some of the things that they have going up there. And just the way that he does things, it's gold standard. So I know you really enjoyed the conversation too, and I think everybody's going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, he's very well spoken, phenomenal. Said he doesn't do, very many podcasts, and he knocks this one out of the park. So you guys are definitely going to love this one.
Yep, for sure. So before we do get over to Jesse, we do have some people to thank. First, want to thank our title sponsor, icehockeysystems.com. Talk about good people, guys. Like, this is great people, absolutely great people. And go to icehockeysystems.com today. It's the best website out there for all your coaching education needs. Thousands of drills, whiteboard explanations from high-level hockey people, the ability to go in and draw your drills up digitally and send them out to your team, build a drill library, send them to your coaches. And we've partnered with them to do an associations platform where you can get this for every single coach within your organization. And just a complete no-brainer. A complete no-brainer is probably the best way to describe it. And imagine, being able to put practice plans together, put drill packages together, put them up in a library where all of your coaches can go to get these drills and practice plans, especially for the coaches who have regular jobs, who don't have the time necessarily to sit there for a half an hour and think about a practice plan and stuff like that. It's an unbelievable website to be able to use for the lower level coaches who might not have the time, to the higher level coaches that have a ton of time. They have info and content and stuff on there for them too. So go to icehockeysystems.com today, look up the associations platform, and sign up for all of your coaches. Huge value add.
Want to say thank you to Train Heroic. Train Heroic is the amazing app that allows me to train so many elite and young hockey players online for a hilariously low price. Guys, my off-season 2025 training program is about to drop in the next few weeks, and we are dropping some big old bombs with that. There are a ton of very cool things that we're going to be doing with my company here this summer, and things I'm going to offer that I've never offered before. So really excited. Keep your eyes peeled on my social medias, on my gram, and you can train with me online just like tens of thousands of other hockey players have on Train Heroic. So thank you to Train Heroic.
And thank you to Helios Hockey. They're re-upping up with us again. Woo! Guys, I just had a conversation with these guys the other day, and again, just great people who are doing amazing things for the game of hockey. And so got to have a great talk with them. They have some new and exciting things coming up the hopper with their product. So Helios Hockey it is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pads, and it ticks every time you go. And the biggest game changer with it, not only does it give you real-time data and feedback on your play, things like your stride length mechanics. You can compare yourself to other kids that are your age around the world that also have Helios, but also syncs up your video with whatever you're doing, and you get your shifts cut up for you directly right after a game. Absolute game changer for any kid that's looking to get better by watching their video. Any coach, that's working with kids that want to save some time rather than going through an entire game and stopping and starting and clipping and all that kind of stuff. Just an unbelievable value add, guys. So go to helioshockey.com today. Use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, and you will get 20% off your pro 12-month or 24-month subscription. So Helios Hockey today, awesome stuff. Also want to thank Crossbar. Crossbar is an end-to-end software solution that you can use to help streamline your operations for your youth hockey organization. So many people that I know have made the switch from these big conglomerate type sites like Sports Engine and gone over to Crossbar. It's because it's so easy to use. It looks really good, sleek website design, the ability to go in and has an unbelievable club scheduler. It's got a 5-star communications app, do everything from registration, from your entire season to drop-ins and lessons and things like that. Absolute game changer as well. So go to crossbar.org today and check it out. And also, last but not least, as always, want to thank you guys, the listeners, for continuing to support our podcast. We are 6+ years into this thing, and we are not slowing down anytime soon. And the biggest reason why is because we get to interact with you guys. And we love to bring on guests like Jesse that you're going to hear in just a second to provide some valuable insight and perspective into this beautiful game of hockey that we all love. And so if you can for us, if you can do us a solid, the only thing that we ask for is if you can go into your podcast app and shoot us a rating, shoot us a review, download and follow our podcast. It goes a long way to helping us to spread the positive messages about the youth hockey community. And we just appreciate you guys so much. So we appreciate you. You're going to love this episode with a great human being. So without further ado, here we go with Jesse Hale. We are so excited to have on this episode of the podcast. He's out in beautiful Calgary, Alberta. Jesse Hale. Jesse, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, boys.
Oh, let's let her rip. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to have you on here. You're one of those guys, Jesse, that I'm like, I can't believe we haven't had Jesse on like years ago. Just it's such a good hockey guy, such a good hockey mind, such a good hockey heart, I would say too. Toast fault, absolutely. But excited to get you on here now. But first question we always ask our guest, Jesse. You know, you're as passionate about the game, you're as passionate about hockey development as anybody as I've met. So what got you started in it? What got you passionate about the game? How'd you fall in love with it back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, a kid from Canada, it's pretty basic, nothing too exciting there, but just outdoor rinks, playing minor hockey. For me, I wasn't the top player, but I love the game more than most. So I had a pretty good drive to want to go as far as I could in terms of a career, whether that wouldn't be a playing career, but just different things. So for me, played a lot, kind of had the key to the small town outdoor rink and indoor rink and stuff. So got to play whenever you wanted with buddies and all that stuff. So that was kind of the coming up, and my dad was awesome, made an outdoor rink in the back for us at the house. So always had some fun times that way. But then kind of when you kind of fast forward a bit, I went to university in Lethbridge down south in Alberta, and had a hockey program there, and just kind of pestered the coach enough to get involved. I'll do anything, I'll help the equipment guy. I'll do whatever it turned out to be. So that's kind of where it started. It was just kind of a assistant equipment manager, and then I kind of morphed into video coach, and then a new coach comes in and it's director of hockey operations, and then a lot of things kind of take off from there, and just kind of fell in love with the game. And from there, got into coaching. From there, got into a manager of hockey development job with Hockey Alberta. Then a stint out in Ottawa with the Sens and their group. And now I'm running a minor hockey association here in Calgary. So I've been pretty lucky to kind of, the past, call it 20 years, be in the game, kind of working in it full time. So that's kind of my story growing up. So.
Love that, man. Love that. Well, let me ask you this, because I've always been a big believer in this. I think some of my best jobs and things that have helped me to become who I am as a coach, developer, educator, whatever you want to call it now, was kind of like the grunt work, dirty jobs. You talked about going to University of Lethbridge. Hey, what can I do? I'll do anything. Just give me a job. And then you work your way up, right? You worked your way up from kind of doing that, and all of a sudden director of hockey operations. And now you're doing what you're doing. But like, can you talk a little bit, because I get so many messages from people. Hey, how do I get into it? How do I get into it? How do I get my foot in the door? Whatever it may be. And a lot of it is just reaching out to as many people as you can, and just doing the work that nobody else wants to do, and then proving your value and creating trust with people that are decision makers within the game to want to hire you, want you to be a part of their team and stuff. And so can you talk a little bit about getting into it from a little bit more of a professional level, of maybe, hey, I want to do this for a living at some point, and kind of doing maybe some of the dirty work, some of the grunt work, and how that's helped you to be where you are today?
Yeah, I think the number one there was just, it was a work ethic for me, that I was happy to do those type of things to, you look at coaches now. I got a few buddies coaching in the Western League or different things. Like, it's not all just, I'm going to hop on the ice for an hour and then I'm going to do a game on the bench for 2 hours. Like, they're doing video and stuff for hours and hours and hours. And it's a grind of a job. So I think you kind of have to have a bit of that lifestyle in you to want to get into it and make sure you put in a lot of work. I see a lot of coaches, for the most part, of, okay, I coached U15 AA this year. When can I have the AAA team, or when can I get in the Western League? And it's just kind of, don't skip the rungs in the ladder of development for players, but also coaches and guys. So for me, it was just, I didn't know what I didn't know, so I wanted to learn, and I would do anything to kind of just be a part of that group and that culture. I wanted to learn. In university, it was I didn't know anybody in that city, so I was a hockey guy, so I wanted to be in that mix. So I just wanted to kind of be a part of a team, and I did whatever they wanted me to do, and luckily I was decent at building relationships with administrators, coaches, players, and that's kind of what they saw. So for me, kind of like you mentioned, I think networking is super important. You know, if you go to a coach conference to better yourselves and hone your craft, are you talking to people? And it's not just, hey, can I come work for you? But it's just building relationships. Like I think you and I talked 5+ years ago just about some stuff, and then I get this job, and it's okay. Now we can kind of reconnect and different things. So I think it's just make genuine relationships with people, and I think that's going to help you climb the ladder. Or a lot of it is who you know and different things. So if you build a good relationship with someone in 5 years, and like, well, yeah, I met that guy at this conference, and he was talking about something that I'm missing. I'm going to give him a call. So I think that's a huge part of it. But just kind of work hard, have fun with it. Yeah, for me, it's not a job. It is my job, but I enjoy it a lot. So I think you have to love it in order to kind of climb the ladder. If you think of it as how can I make a career out of it, it's going to be pretty hard to do, I find.
You talked about networking, and that's something that I get questions from a lot of coaches. Like, how do I get my foot in the door? How do I, get in front of this guy? How do I get to this level? And obviously, if you didn't play in the NHL or some super high level, those guys are always going to have a leg up. But if you're a guy who didn't play at those levels, what advice would you give to coaches who are looking to network and trying to get into any level of hockey? Because I get this question a lot, and I say the same thing you are. But to the coaches out there who are asking those questions, do you have any advice on actually networking? So many people, it's wild. They're like nervous to go up and talk to other coaches at the conferences. Like anything that you can give to help them with that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think just try and find some common ground with someone. Like I was super lucky growing up that, or even when I got my job with Hockey Alberta, I got thrown into, and I was 21, 22, and I was just working at camp, and the lead instructor was Ken Hitchcock. So for me, that was like, oh, I can learn a ton here. But I was that guy who was scared to talk to him. But he just kind of said, okay, there was 4 or 5 of us. Come to my cabin on this day, and bring a 6-pack. I'll bring a bottle of wine, and we'll just, what do you want to know? So we sat there for hours and hours, and I just kind of from kind of then I just thought that, hey, these guys want to learn just as much from me and my perspective as I can learn from them. Obviously, there's stuff a lot more I can pull out of him, but I think just they're just people and they want to give back. So I think that's a big part of it, is just trying to find that human element, be someone that you can talk to, build a relationship. Don't kind of follow them around and just different things, but just kind of be yourself and be as genuine as you can, and then just try and find different ways to add value. So, right now video is huge, analytics are huge. So kind of, I never did that growing up. I kind of learned video by myself, but if there was something that I could get into now, we want to try and find that computer science, that analytics background. If you have that hockey plus that side, I think those are where the jobs are going to be. And I think that's maybe where some security is. So I think just try and find ways to round yourself out, and then just don't be scared. Be yourself. Hockey guys are usually awesome, so you're gonna have conversations pretty organically. So,
Love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll even go the other way too, for like, you mentioned that like hockey guys typically are good guys, or women are good women. Like what Ken Hitchcock has done for so many people outside of, the realm of the spotlight. I've heard stories like that with him from so many people, like just taking younger coaches under his wing. I've heard that he's really big on helping out like reporters to understand the game too, because they're asking the questions and this and that, and he tries to like inform them on, different ways of how they're playing and stuff, so they can be better in what they do and understand. And so like that giving back aspect from people that do have some of those titles goes a long way. And yeah, like you mentioned Ken Hitchcock, like what was that like? Because he's a polarizing figure in hockey, and he's widely known as one of the smartest hockey people of all time. Again, Vex, you talked about it, like he never played hockey. I think he was like running a hockey apparel store or something to that effect at some point, and then got into junior hockey and kind of worked his way up. and he's a Hall of Famer. If he's not a Hall of Famer now, he will be. But like, what did you take out of, getting to spend some time with Ken Hitchcock at the end of the day? Because he is a guy that loves to give back with knowledge, but he's also a pretty entertaining guy, to say the least, as well.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Like for me, he just kind of pulled back the curtain into. He was with St. Louis at the time, so the first day we had a break. Okay, come to this meeting room, and he put up his tech pack for St. Louis. So kind of went through in detail how he would teach his players at training camp, what he would go through, and we could ask questions and all that stuff. And then we kind of go a few days later for kind of the beers and the wine or whatever. And it was just, what do you want to know? Pull back the curtain, and then there's practices. So we're on the ice. He'll run some of them. He doesn't even tie up his skates. So that's one thing I learned from him, is how to, see someone on the ice with his skates untied. But he doesn't move around a ton, but the detail in practices is super important. So that was one of the biggest takeaways for me was, you could have the best drill, but if you're not teaching within it, it really doesn't matter what the drill is. So that was one thing that he really tied into us on how to run a good practice. How to have he had transition in every single drill that he did. So there was always, if it was a 3-on-2, you'd always break out that group. So not a lot of flow, which is something I took away. But I don't do a lot of flow drills now. I get the puck touches and stuff, but I think make it game-like was something that I really took away from him. But he shared a bunch of stories about guys giving back to him. And then I think he was on the Olympic staff. I'm not sure which one it was. Babcock was the head coach. And there wasn't a lot of sharing going on. And like you mentioned, with him growing up in that sports store that was in Edmonton, and the University of Alberta Golden Bears coach Claire Drake was there, and a bunch of kind of guys in the little coaching fraternity were growing up at that same time, and they all shared ideas. And we kind of got away from that a little bit. So when they had the Olympic team, I forget what tactic it was, but Detroit was Babcock's team, and I think their PK was out of this world. No one knew what they were doing. So, there was conversation. Okay, what should we do here? Player evaluation. Who can we put in these? And no one was really speaking up. So Bab's like, "Okay, just get out of here, guys. Go for lunch. Go for your workout, whatever. Come back in 2 hours." And he had his whole tech pack from Detroit on all these whiteboards, just saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm okay to share my stuff, so you guys better share it with me." And that was something that I really took away from coaching early on. And I was lucky to learn that at an early age, that share ideas, make the game better. So for me in my position now, yes, I have rival associations or different things but I want to help anybody out that I can to do that. So that was kind of the biggest takeaway from working with guys like that is, they love the game more than anybody. And Hitch was 60 plus at that time. And, he loves the game like he's 10 years old. So that was really cool to see, and just kind of how he gives back to younger guys. Somebody helped him, so he's going to help somebody else. So that was a cool experience for me, one that I'll never forget. And then other guys have done that too. I was coaching a U16 AAA team. Billy Peters was with the Flames, and we were at Winsport, which is a rink that they were skating at. And he popped in to say, "Hey, what's going on here? How are you guys doing?" Talk to my players a little bit. And then that was 10 minutes. We go on to win the tournament. I get a phone call from unknown number. It's Billy Peters saying, "Hey, congrats. I heard you guys won." He had a mutual friend. So just kind of a really cool kind of way that guys love the game and give back and care about who's coming up. So that's just one thing I've always tried to do, obviously at a different scale, but always want to try and help people where we can.
I love that, man. That's so cool. And I do feel like, and Vex and I talk about it a lot, and it's something that I'm going to focus a lot on, in the future. And that's mentorship. Whether it's like an official mentor or whether it's people, of the higher calibers of hockey, just giving time back to be there, whether it's whether it's like a consistent thing that they do or whether it's whatever it may be. Just like you think about how those just little interactions made you feel and what it did for you as a young coach. And that goes such a long way. And it's funny you mentioned the Babcock thing, because I read his book. It was the 2010 Olympics, I believe, is the one that it was. And I think it was called Moments or something like that. And I remember reading that part of it and being like, wow, that's actually really cool that he did that and opened it up. Because if there's not a spirit of collaboration and in a coaching staff, you're not going to get
No.
you're not going to get anywhere, right? And it also helped to build a camaraderie within the staff and stuff. But when I do want to go back to one thing that you said about Hitchcock, and that was every drill or most drills had some piece of transition to it. I freaking love that. I absolutely love that. And one of the reasons why one of my coaching mentors, Barry Smith, 7-time Stanley Cup winner, a lot of what he talks about right now is the value of transition and being really, really good both ways, offensively and defensively. So one of the things he talks about is like, okay, there's a 50-50 race. How quickly can you realize that your team has won the race and get to a spot of support for the person who just won the puck? That's what elite teams do. And then from the defensive side, how quickly can you understand that you're now on the defensive side of the puck? How quickly can we take away time and space, get above, take the space away? And so can you just dive a little bit more into that from a hockey perspective, and maybe some of the things that were shared that day as far as transition goes and the practice plan that went with it? Because I've been on the ice with Barry, and his drills are insane as far as it relates to and a lot of it honestly is hockey sense. It's the recognition of how to support the puck and how to get above the puck defensively. Could you dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I think the one that I remember the most was, again, call it a 3-on-2 drill. Play would happen, goalie would stop the puck. That puck would be dead, and then they would just spot a puck in the corner, and the D-man had to just break out to two coaches sitting on the wall, where the drill was dead and over, but the D-man still had an extra point of it, where the 3-on-2 was part of the drill. But now I got to retrieve a puck in the corner, shoulder check, find my exit, and go. So it was kind of scripted, but there's still, we don't know where that puck's going to fly to, different things, rim. So just different ways that I think he added. We're going offense to defense, back to offense, or how do I go back for a puck, make a quick play, support my partner, second quick, just different things that he had that every drill in that. And this wasn't like a pro camp. It was U15, tier 1, tier 2, the decent players, but it was just super basic stuff of how can I get the puck as fast as possible, and kind of transition it to where I got to go, and then get back on D if I can. And then just the detail of stuff is what, again, guys just run drills and think kids are going to get better just because they're doing a drill for 10 minutes. But, going back for a puck, okay, let's get first touch forehand on this puck. So when I get it, I'm already loaded, and boom, I can make a play, versus getting on my backhand. Now I have to change here and then make a play. It takes that extra second. So just the amount of detail on how to play fast, I think it was at that time, that was kind of it still is, but that was 10 years ago. That was kind of the big thing. How do we transition quick? And that was just some keys that he had of how to kind of get the puck out of our end as quick as possible and go to the fun zone.
The fun zone. Love that. Were you saying at that first drill at the end, like usually the D would fall off and then they had to make it? I've never seen that in any practice. I don't think that is like Toph and I are always talking about, especially youth practices. Like, how do you get more touches? How do you get more reps? How do you get more quality? Almost every team would, in that drill, the D would fall off and they would be done. Their job is done. And coaches listening, here's a very, very simple way that you can get your Ds one more rep, and it's a quality rep, and there's purpose to it. And you do that for, even if you only do that for 2 drills, but if you practice 3 days a week, the entire season, like those little things will start to add up. That is so awesome. I'm so glad you just said that on the show. That's money. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just little things that he would teach that would go. And it was a lot of fun to see how they operate. And I do those things. That was 15, 20 years ago. And I still do that stuff now. So, and like you said, the little things add up to a big difference.
Yeah. And like for all the coaches out there in Jesse, we had some of these conversations when I was up in Calgary too. Like, there's got to be a purpose to every drill that you do, and there's got to be a theme, and there's got to be a habit. And that's where, like, I think a lot of coaches, use your assistants, man. Like, use your assistant coaches to look at, like, hey, your job in this drill is to look at, hey, maybe for the drill that you were talking about, they're going to their forehand. and you explain to them why that's beneficial for playing fast. Or maybe it's a box out drill. You got one coach that's looking at the offense and looking at, how to get to the net, and one coach is coaching the defense and how to box out. There's so many different things that can be taught, and you kind of alluded to it, but like, don't just run a drill to run a drill. What are you actually trying to get out of this drill? What's the skill? What's the concept that you're trying to teach and to help your kids get better? And the more methodical you can be on that, the more development you're going to see with their players, because the more coaching they're going to get at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think just having kind of that vocal mindset, being that coaching team as well, like you say, we're at minor hockey level, so not every assistant coach is going to have a ton of experience and all that stuff. But my job, head coach's job, coach the coach to know what they're doing today. It's not just pushing pucks. It's obviously, let's try and make connections, talk to all the kids, but what are you bringing to the table that every kid's getting better because of something that you did? And I see a lot of it where maybe they're timid and scared or whatever, but just be confident, know what you're talking about going into every drill. Head coaches, make sure you're pre-icing not only your players but your coaches. Okay, when we do this is your job. And it's hard because a lot of the head coaches want to have control, but it's really hard to run the drill and teach the drill in the same instinct. So if you're doing both, one of the two isn't going to be as dialed in as it should. So for me as an assistant coach, you kind of love it. For me, I'm always leaking sweat after every practice because you're buzzing over here talking to this guy, going to talk to him, and trying to just bring some value and have some fun. But I just see a lot of it where they're just kind of sitting on the boards waiting for the next drill. Yeah, I got to move pucks here and do that. Or I'm going to draw out my one drill and then I'm done. You're there for the full hour 15. Like every drill you have a role. If you don't know what it is, ask the head coach, what can I do here?
That stuff drives me nuts when I see that in practice. Like, here's my one drill of the day, and then I'm done. I'm going to chill on the boards and kind of be a distraction, just making jokes with the players. I've talked about on the podcast, but it's been a minute, probably a few years ago, because I haven't coached in a few years. But I coached with an unbelievable youth coach, Mike Barra. He's in Nashville now. St. Louis lost him, which I hate because he was so good for us here in St. Louis. But he did all the macro, and I would skate around and do the micro. So he'd run practice. We had like 3 assistants out there. We were very lucky. But like I was like, hey, I'd love to just like hone in on details when I see them. Like, you're coaching the big stuff, and then like it's a shooting drill, and I see a guy always shooting off the same foot or never pump faking and doing some type of change of direction. I'll go up and work on that with that guy real quick, or not shoulder checking, and I notice that, hey, I'm going to go tell this player, and I'm not in the way of the practice. I'm not ruining it, but I'm at least adding value when I don't need to be passing a puck in the drill or something. And coaches, like, just think, how can I add more value? And if coach doesn't give you a job, find a way to add more value yourself. Do the micro, figure something out that you can help all the players on the ice get better and not just stand out there and be farting on the boards.
And that's every level. That's like whether you're coaching 7-year-olds or just learning, or you're at the NHL level, like every aspect, every kid, every grown man, woman, they can learn something. Yeah. So bring some value every single time you're on the ice.
Love it.
Motto of this part of the conversation: do not fart on the boards.
Don't be farting on the boards. You can fart on the boards if you're moving, but if you're sitting, no. Get moving, coaches.
Just crop dusting everybody. Well, Jesse, along this conversation, you had the opportunity to be the manager of hockey development for Hockey Alberta. And for those that don't know, Hockey Alberta is an affiliate of Hockey Canada. And for the Americans that are listening, we talk a lot about USA Hockey because we're so involved with USA Hockey and done a lot of things, know a lot of the people, not as much on the Hockey Canada front. So what I'd love to ask you just kind of first is you work with Hockey Alberta. What are some of the things that you feel like Hockey Alberta, as an affiliate of Hockey Canada, does really, really well to develop players in that area? The hard part about Alberta, as a lot of other places, whether it's in Canada or the United States, is you you have all these different people that you're servicing, and they're all very different in their region and how big their organizations are, how many kids, there's so many things that go into it. But just as a whole, what did you learn, and what are some of the things that Hockey Alberta does that really helps on the player development side in your region there?
Yeah, I think development is the word for them for sure. Like I think give or take one or two, they have 30 staff. They got marketing, got a CEO, you got foundation, but 12 or 13 of those staff members were in development. So that's coach development, player development, association development. So when I was there, I started out in Lethbridge after I went to university, and we had this regional centers. So I had basically Southern Alberta, and I would kind of work with their coaches, work with their players, and just whether that be again U9 up to the AAA group, however we can service them. Coach development was huge, and then I think from there we had 6 of those across the province. So our whole province is kind of covered with a person who is I'm taking care of this region, their players, their coaches, their associations, and from there I kind of went up to Red Deer, which is where the main office is. I kind of managed that group, and to put that to perspective, like British Columbia, Saskatchewan, similar sizes, they might have 1, 2, 3 development people in there. So Alberta was super progressive in terms of development, and they have a goalie development guy, elite development. You talk about mentorship; they have 2 coach mentors. That's their job, is to do mentorship for different coaches who come in. So for me, it was just I learned an absolute ton, and you meet a lot of people. But I think for what I learned there is just what development actually is, and how in my job now, when I'm working with one association, I basically took what I was doing there, spread out a bunch of region, and put it into 250 members. So a lot easier to manage with 250 versus, tens of thousands. So it's definitely something that they've done very, very well. And we're in the same province as Hockey Canada there in Calgary. So we communicate a lot. We're on lots of work groups. You talk about, the body checking stuff, half ice, cross ice hockey. We were kind of involved in a lot of those conversations to roll that out. But like you say, what you're doing in small town Alberta or, Edmonton, Calgary is way, way different. So hard to find that balance. But for us, it was basically just, here's a menu of things that we can do to help your coaches. Go out and do some seminars. Here's some things we can do for your players. We'll do lots of player programming and camps throughout the spring, summer. So pretty wide variety of stuff that we did. And then kind of something that they're doing now is just creating a standard for a minor hockey association. Kind of go audit them. Hey, do you have skills coaches? Do you have a goalie coach? Do you have strength conditioning coaches? If you don't, you're not that they're going to kick you out of the league, but you need to kind of bring it back up there. And if you do have all those things, maybe there's some perks. So you can host the provincial tournaments, or you can get some extra funding for different things. So I think that they're super progressive on a lot of that stuff. The game is changing a ton. It's hard to change. If you're Canada, it's hard to change everything for everybody. Provincially, kind of same thing, smaller scale, but I think they've done a great job. And the resources that Hockey Canada provides is incredible. I think just trying to get those resources that they have into the hands of people who need them is the biggest struggle. And I don't know, I can't speak for the States, but maybe some different markets, they're not typical hockey markets. If they don't have ex-pros running stuff, like I know Chaser does a good job in St. Louis and stuff, but if they don't have that, they're going to take what USA Hockey gives them and do it, versus everyone's an expert in every town here now. So they're not going to take those great resources. They're going to do whatever they did when they were growing up. And now you're not really working on the modern game. And I think that's where things kind of get lost a little bit. But it's not for lack of trying, not for lack of resources. It's kind of like, I think you told us before, was trying to win that information war of this actually what you need to be doing. We have all this stuff. It's just, how do we get it in the hands of the people to do it?
I love that, man. And let's talk specifically a little bit about coaching development. I've actually had a couple different phone calls today from people. There was one that was in Canada and one that was here in the States, and talking about the model, right? The model, community versus professional, like, whatever it may be. And I think we're probably guilty of this too. So much of what we talk about sometimes is on the model and less on the things that make the models really, really good. And like, even you think about Minnesota, we love the community hockey model, and we are big believers in that. But another part of the reason why so many people or there's such great development in Minnesota is because they have great coaches. They have great coaches who come back to their communities and get involved, and their kids are playing hockey. And when you have great coaches, that's the trump for anything at the end of the day. I think that's the most important thing. And so, can you talk a little bit about how Hockey Alberta supported the coaches? You talked about doing seminars, you talked about doing site visits potentially, and actually get on the ice with different organizations. But number one, are you on the same wavelength as I am that the coaching education piece of it is so important, and maybe we don't focus on that enough? And then also, what are some of the things that you guys did with Hockey Alberta to help to educate more of the coaches in your areas?
Yeah, I'll touch on both, kind of what currently running an association versus Alberta. For me, I learned quickly. This is kind of my 5th year, I think, in this gig running a minor hockey association. We have 13 AA, AAA programs. Learned very quickly that my job's a lot easier, and we're going to do a lot better with great coaching. So if I don't put a lot of time and energy into whether it be keeping great coaches or developing great coaches, it's going to be a tough year. I think that you got to make sure every level, head assistant coaches are taken care of. So, and you kind of rewind to, about Hockey Alberta. So we had those 6 regional centers across the province. Each of those centers have 20 associations that they kind of take under their wing. Some have 100 players, some have, a couple thousand players. So a little bit different. But Hockey Canada created this thing called Instructional Stream. So skating, shooting, puck control, checking skills, and it's an hour and a half in class, hour on ice, and you go through that stuff to teach the coaches kind of what that is. So and there's kind of different levels, 1, 2, 3, depending on how advanced you are. So we would go run those, but then we created a bunch of different things that, the sexy topics of the power play, or you get in nitty gritty of face offs, and you kind of go out and do some of those seminars with different groups. And a lot of that stuff is free. It's just kind of a budget that we had. So you're taking that cost deterrent away. And then when I was in Red Deer, we created kind of based on my experience with Hitch, was Coaches Giving Back, was a partnership with the Western League, that before the game we would have the opposing coach come in before the game, talk about a topic that I would present on for about an hour. Coach would come in and he would talk about that same topic. And then we'd go watch the game, have a beer, have a hot dog, come back after the game, and then the home coach would come up. So that was in Red Deer a lot of times. So Brent Sutter would come up and talk about that or the game or questions. And, you look at guys like Brent Sutter, Don Hay, guys who are legends in that league, and like the rink guys had to kick us out of there a bunch of times. Like we'd be in there for 2-3 hours just because they want to talk hockey, they want to get back. So I think it's just trying to find ways to kind of get in front of people. Coaches want to learn. What can you provide? A couple of years we did a coach conference. That's kind of gone away. They're talking about bringing it back. I sent 5 guys to Michigan the last 2 or 3 years for the coaches site. We're going to send guys to the NHLCA this year. So it's just trying to find ways we ask our players to get better. How are you as a coach getting better every year? So those are things that we've kind of implemented to just support coaches, coach mentorship. They have different kind of, call them Team Alberta events, where you have a regional team of your top 100 players in Alberta in certain age groups. So coaches get selected for that. They have mentors throughout kind of a couple months of a process there. So they get better that way. And just not a lot of other provinces, I don't know about states, really do that for their coaches. And again, without good coaches, it makes the seasons tough. And there's the expectations now with how many different options there are and landscape of change, the hockey's changing. You better kind of come with a good product, or they're going to go somewhere else. So.
Yeah, man, that's dude, that's so much good stuff right there. The one thing I wanted to ask you about was this Coaches Giving Back. That seems like an unbelievable thing. And I even think about, like, we have the USHL team here in Chicago, doing something like that where before the game, you have the opposing team come in and talk to a bunch of coaches that are there. You give them free tickets to the game. And then after the game, the steel coaches, maybe it's a different coach every time. Maybe one time it's the head coach, then you have an assistant, then you have a strength coach, then maybe your GM, whatever. How impactful were those just for some of the younger coaches to get in there and hear from some of these? I mean, you talk about Brent Sutter, my God, like, he's an absolute legend.
Legend. Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about how cool those were and just the kind of impact it had on the youth coaches in the area?
Yeah, it was huge, and like we would kind of schedule them, hey, Friday night, so it's kind of like coaches' night out too. So it's fun for them to kind of get their group together. For me, there was a time where you get burnt out and different things happen. Going to those and putting those on kind of let that fire back for me to kind of coach more. So you just see those guys and how much they love the game and how much they get back and how willing they are to help anybody, and you just learn a ton. So I thought it was great. And again, networking is important. So yeah, I can't recommend those enough. And they sold out every time for the most part. Wherever we did them, they would sell out. So I would do that in the Western League. And we kind of, hey, this is working pretty well in the big centers. Let's go to the AJHL, the Junior A League, and kind of a similar thing, smaller town. But yeah, tons of value from coaches, and whether they learned took one thing away from one of those things, they're a better coach, and they had some fun and just I thought they were great.
Bex, what are your thoughts on that, man? I see you're kind of like,
dude. I'm thinking, how do I do this in my industry? Like, I need to do this, and my buddy Dr. Tony, he does this in his industry, which is like functional sports medicine, and brings in some trainers and stuff. I think every industry should do this. Toph was talking about the importance of mentorship a little bit earlier, and for me, it's literally everything. Mentorship has changed my life, both being a mentor and a mentee. And I was talking to one of my guys the other day, and I was saying, man, I wish I would have started coaching on ice lessons earlier in my hockey career, like when I was like in juniors, because when I started teaching young kids things, it made me better at them, because you have to attack it from a different angle. And like then in my own playing, I was like immediately better in teaching and coaching and mentoring. I just think it's so important for everyone involved. And this is like literally the coolest thing I've ever heard. Toph, what you're saying, like USHL, like why don't they do that? Why don't they do that? Sounds genius. Let's get this going.
Maybe we should get her going. Maybe you can do something in St. Louis, Lindenwood. You got college teams
bro.
coming in there.
Yeah. And one thing with that, last thing I'll say on it, it's like, again, you got Brent Sutter, you got Don Hay, you got Mike Johnston, who coached in the NHL. Not one coach said, no, I won't do it. They all, yeah, I'll do it. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to prepare something? Do you want me to do? So they were all in. Like every single guy, whether they were ex-NHL coach, ex-NHL player, they were all in. So I think it just kind of shows, again, we talked about before, great hockey people. There's a lot of them in the game, and they all want to give back. So
very cool.
100%, man. Well, let's transition a little bit. You got to working with a lot of different organizations with your work with Hockey Alberta, and now like you said, you've been able to take what you've learned to use it on the organization that you have. And I've told you this before, man, but you guys do such a freaking good job there up in Calgary with your group. When I got the chance to go up and visit, it was awesome and a great learning experience for me too. What are some of the biggest things that you learned now being on the micro of it and having your hand and touching so many different parts of the organization, from coach development to parent stuff to player development, things like that, while focusing on the macro of the club as a whole? What do you think are, because we do have a lot of youth hockey coaches and program directors that listen. What are some of the biggest things that you've learned in the 5 years or so that you've been doing this now?
Yeah, there's definitely a few learnings. I think this year, one of the bigger ones, in working with the think tank and the blueprint was, the importance of the parent education issue. Maybe not issue, but I just think how you need to do more for them and help them out a little bit more. Whether that be, how do I get my kid to junior? Can he get there? How do I talk to my kid at the rink? How do I talk to other parents? Just different things that I definitely didn't think about. How do I drive home? That type of thing. I think that's super important, that all associations need to do something to help their parents, whether that be a parent handbook, whether that be a couple seminars. I think that is super, super important to do, is parent education, help them understand the minor sports journey, that I think is super key. And
I
then I
love that.
think, go ahead, Bex.
I was just gonna say something that from the gym side, like my business models, I try and put gyms in rinks so that everybody wins. I can give cheap training to players in season. But one of my biggest goals is I offer a monthly speech to each location. Some of them don't use it. And I'm like, we're talking about this, like free parent education. It's free. Like I get paid a lot of money to speak. I'm trying to do it for free. And then I bring in like a nutritionist. I bring in a sports psychologist. I bring in a mindset coach, a video coach, and just try to give these free speeches away to just give back to the parents. And like every single time they're like so grateful for all these things that they haven't heard. And if they're younger, it's just going to help them kind of formulate, well, how do I attack this whole youth hockey thing if we get those speeches in front of them when they're younger and able to help them as much as we can. And the parents are so grateful for this stuff. And it's really not that hard to organize. Like we need to be doing more of this stuff.
Yeah, that was the message we had when not only when Toph came here, but we did it online for us. And like there were some people who emailed me right away, like kind of moved to tears of, I wish I knew this earlier. So I think that it's just super impactful what that could do. So that's the parent side of things. And then kind of shift for me, the first thing I did was just use my development knowledge and plug in as much as I could to help out our players and our coaches, and that's just hasn't changed. So I think just you can't just assume that things are going to happen because you have a coach on the ice, or you talk about life skills. We actually put a program in place. Okay, what is your plan, coach, to develop life skills for your team? Not just how you're going to develop your power play and different things, but life skills. So because hockey can be a great vehicle, minor sports can be a great vehicle for life skill development, but you can't just assume that because you're going to the rink, you're going to learn how to be a good teammate, if you don't have that environment created, it's not going to happen. So how do you create that environment? So that was one thing culture wise. I think that we've taken a huge step in doing what we do, and how we've kind of had some success. And it goes in waves. It's not all just, since I've been here, we've done well. There's a lot of things that have happened in this job. It could be a dream job. It can be a nightmare. As I told Toph, if you don't have a good board of directors who kind of let you do the hockey thing, it's tough. And that's kind of, for me anyways, and I can say this because they told me this in our association, I got a job is because they hit rock bottom by kind of letting maybe board members be too involved, or not having a hockey person running things, not following policies. And it was a tough association on the ice and off the ice. And now we've shored some stuff up, and our board's great. So it makes it that dream job that I can kind of have the I want to say power, but just kind of the authority to say, this is how this is going to run on the hockey side. This is how we're going to help players, how we're going to help coaches, who our coaches are going to be. Our coaches are going to pick the teams, not the board, that type of thing. And just kind of adding different things in terms of development. Truthfully, like in Alberta, and that's what I know, there's over 150 associations, and obviously some of them are bigger and smaller than the others, but only 4 or 5 associations have director of operations, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a new position in Canada and out west for sure. So I don't know how others don't. And since I've had this one, you've seen kind of 3 or 4 pop up. So I think people are seeing that the game is becoming a bit more professionalized and a business per se. I don't really love that it's a business, but there's definitely options out there that you have to make your program better, or no one's going to come to your program.
And one of the biggest things too, kind of going along with that, is like what I was most impressed with in getting a chance to work with you guys. And we say this a lot, but it's like the more work that you do up front and the more intention that you put into things, like obviously the product is going to be better, but with that also, you're going to have to put out a lot less fires. The more you educate your coaches, the more parents are going to be satisfied with how their player is developing. The more that you do life skills, like you talked about, like the more just like the better your players are going to be on and off the ice. The more parent education you do, the less questions you're going to have to answer to them, just because a lot of the parent stuff that comes up is just, they don't know. They just don't know, and they're confused by the process. Right. And so I think what you guys have done in being very upfront and intentional about putting things in place before the problems arise, when you do that, less problems are going to arise because of the education and the forethought that you've had. And so, I think that is a staple and a hallmark of a lot of really good organization, is they're very organized and very methodical and planned out, especially at the beginning of the year. There's a plan, there's a protocol, they follow that. And that's not to say they're stuck in the mud and they can't change if things aren't working or anything like that. But like what you guys have done, in my estimation, that goes above and beyond, is just like, you're so intentional with everything that you do on the forefront. And that is, like I said, a hallmark of great organizations. And Vex, I mean, you've seen it. So many youth organizations, they just freaking survive, man. They survive the day, or they survive the year, and however they can. And that's not to say, like, every organization has different challenges and different situations that they have to kind of go through. But like, so many are just surviving. And the more work you put in up front, the less fires, the less work you're going to have to do on the back end. And the product is just going to be that much better.
It'll be easier and more enjoyable for everyone involved: parents, players, coaches, the board, the organization. Being upfront and putting in the work up front, like Toph said, you don't have to put out all the fires. You're still gonna have to put out fires, but not near. You're not gonna be daily, just like, stealing from this to fire to water to put out that fire over there. It's all about efficiency. You put in a little bit more of sweat equity up front, and everything else runs easier and smoother on the back end. And then you can just focus on making the best product daily possible, instead of, oh my God, we got to put out this fire, we got to put out this fire. Oh, now we also got to run great practices. Now you just focus on the thing. Just make the main thing the main thing.
And the landscape is changing so much that you need to be prepared and need to forecast of what's going to change. We're talking about before of spring tryouts. Now we're maybe changing that. So if you're not 10 steps ahead, then there's no way you can prepare and shift when things are going to shift. But we're getting different teams in next year. What's the plan? Right now it's playoffs for us, and I would love to be just a cheerleader, but I'd say we got to hire our coaches for next year. So there's just a lot of stuff that's ongoing, and we're not perfect. There's a lot of stuff that we can get better at, and we will, because like you say, there's a plan. But we like to think that we've done a good job, and we hope that we can continue that pace for us.
Absolutely, man. All right. One more question before we end this off, because you're a great hockey mind, and I love the way that you think about the game, and especially with all the experiences that you've had. We mentioned coaching education. If there was one thing that program directors can do to help support their coaches that you've either done or you've seen at the end of the day, what would one thing that's really, really important be in supporting coaches?
Yeah, one is definitely tough. Like, obviously, there's the on-ice development piece. Adding some skill coaches would be one that I think is huge for us. That they take that, but I think something maybe different than the hockey answer is just the art of coaching. How do we improve them as good communicators? What does holding kids accountable actually mean? How do we do that? Because those are the kind of the things that I think that we get most complaints. Again, we're AA, AAA, so it's like, oh, this kid took a bad penalty, sit him. And then if you sit him but you don't talk to him, or just different things like that, is how to actually communicate with players throughout a whole season. I think if we can kind of do a lot on that's missing, like we talk a lot about, let's get our power play ticking, let's do different things. That doesn't matter if you can't actually communicate with your players, and you have a good culture, because they hold each other accountable and different things. But that just kind of gets missed, where you're inconsistent in your communication and your accountability. If you can dial that in and be a really good communicator, I think you're going to have success as a coach, because you can learn all the other stuff. You can go to a presentation and learn how to do your power play or PK. But if you're not going to be able to build relationships and be a good communicator, nothing else matters.
Amen, man. I love that. Vex?
It doesn't matter how much you know unless you're able to disseminate it into the players that you're talking with. Like you can't use NHL verbiage if you're training or working with 8-year-olds on the ice. They're obviously not going to understand it. Stride Envy, Adam Nicholas, he said something super, super profound on this podcast in the first year we did it, I think. And he said more coaches need to take teaching lessons because of this exact thing. You might know everything and be such a great coach, but if you can't get that message to be understood by your team and have good communication where they're understanding how to do things, when to do things, why to do things, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. And that's something that's always stuck with me. I thought that was such a great quote by him, and it's exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, man. I say that too now all the time. Like, you want to be a better coach, talk to teachers. Like, you can talk to hockey people and learn all that stuff, but you really want to be a transformational coach. Like, you got to understand that stuff. So I love that answer, man. I freaking love that. Like, teaching the art of it, because and you know what too, though? Like, there are some things that you can teach as it relates to that, but also it's supporting them through the ups and downs of figuring it out themselves, because so much of the art of coaching and learning how to communicate is figuring out who you are. It's the relationship you build with the players. It's not it's an art, not a science. It's an art, not a science. And so letting them have the ability to kind of be autonomous in how they do things, but while also giving them a little bit of some education and some guardrails of what to expect and what the standards are from coaches in your organization. But that art of coaching is for me, I think that's the most fun part of it too. It's the most fun part of it is being able to, because you learn a lot about your players, but you also learn a lot about yourself and who you are as a leader. And you got to do some self-reflection and do some digging into what makes you tick and how you best communicate and how that is best received from the people that you're trying to affect. So yeah, dude. Great. I love that. Great answer. Great stuff. Well, we're going to have more with Jesse here. A little 10 questions that'll be housed in the Hockey Think Tank community. If you're not in the community yet, this little community that we got, we're partnered with the Rink Shrinks as well. Go to community.thehockeythinktank.com. But Jesse, man, you obviously, I've told you before, I think you're unreal at what you do. And it was so great to be able to get you on the podcast here to spread your message with so many more people. So appreciate all that you do, and great job. It was great having you on here.
Thanks, boys. Keep it up. You guys are awesome.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are the property of the NHL and its teams. Copyright NHL 2025, all rights reserved.